Proper socialisation of your puppy. It's the single biggest thing that you can do for your dog in its life, okay? I'm going to do this video in two parts because there's a lot to talk about. I'll cover a little bit of how we do it, and then I'll give some examples in the second part. Your puppy has a sensitive period during development. You'll see in literature something that's called the essential period or the crucial period. They don't think that it's absolutely essential. It is in real terms that we get in, but it's not to say that if we don't get in and do all this stuff that the dog can never recover from it. Okay, so it's called the sensitive period, or what how it's referred to. Between 5 and 12 weeks old is the big window, and we've still got time between the dogs 12 and 16 weeks old, and the window starts closing after that. So between 5 and 12 weeks old, any positive experience that the dog has during that time, we want to capitalise on that. Okay, so the more positive experiences we get during that time, the more robust our dog is going to be when he or she is older. Okay, so people think that socialisation is about exposure, okay, and they take their dog out to socialise it. Okay, now exposure isn't enough, unfortunately. It is enough for a lot of dogs, but it also isn't enough for a lot of dogs. The vast majority of cases that I see, which is dog-on-dog aggression or dog-on-human aggression, is from dogs who haven't been properly socialised as puppies. Now, we want to use food to do it, okay, so Dr. Ian Dunbar, if you look at his website, which is dogstardaily.com, he talks a huge amount about puppy socialisation because it's so important. Okay, now he says between the dog is 5 and 8 weeks old, when the dog's at the breeder, the dog should meet 100 new people with positive experiences, and that's done with food. So you get, the breeder gets 100 new experiences, which is 30 new people a week. And it sounds a big ask, okay, but if you're not going to do this, I would suggest that you don't breed dogs. 30 new people a week, and they come in and they give the dog a couple of treats, okay, a couple of pieces of kibble. Between the dog is 8 and 12 weeks old, which is usually the period that you get your dog, you want to do another 100 people, okay? So between the dog is 5 and 12 weeks old, we want a dog meeting 200 people, 200 different people with positive experiences, which is done by giving treats, okay? Now, if we don't do it now, a lot of time what will happen is your vet will say don't take your dog out until she's 12 weeks old because she's not had her inoculations, okay? We've still got a period of time at which we can capitalise, but what we want to do during that period between the dog is 12 and 16 weeks old is the dog should meet 100 new people per week with positive experiences, okay? Now, we've got a couple of problems. The last video blog I did was on feeding other people's dogs or other people feeding your dogs. It's the flip side of the same coin. Nando had put a comment on saying, and it was just to illustrate the point, it was a good point he made, what about when you need to socialise your puppy and you need to get people to feed your dog? So there's a couple of ways we can go around it. We want the dog learning that people are good, okay? People are good or nothing, well, that they're not anything to be frightened of. So if the person comes in and as the person's there, we can feed the dog, okay? Or we can put the food on the ground, okay? By putting the food on the ground and letting the dog eat the food on the ground, it knows that when a person comes in, the person comes in towards them to say hello, food appears on the ground, which keeps her nose and her mouth on the ground and her 4 feet on the ground. So we're not teaching her to jump, because what will happen is people come in and go to pet your puppy, the puppy jumps and they pet them, and they're now training your puppy to jump on strangers as an adult dog, which is a total nightmare and then needs to be rectified. So by preventing it from happening in the first place, so food on the ground, okay, that's a good way to do it. People come in, you feed them. People come in, you feed them from your hand. People come in towards you and say hello to the puppy, and you bring the dog in and you ask the dog to sit and you feed them from their hand. So you're now starting to build in training under distraction. So the dog just learns. People in the environment are pretty cool because they mean mum or dad gives me food, okay? By us giving the food, it means that the dog's continually paying us attention, but we're getting the association that It's the person coming in which predicts that food's going to happen. It needs to be done every single time. Okay. Now, I would suggest that we do this for weeks. So not just up until the dog's 12 weeks old, or not just up until the dog's 16 weeks old. The more experiences we can do with this, the better the dog, the more resilience we build in a dog. And I'll talk about resilience in the second part of this video. So it is essential, and it's not about exposure. It is absolutely not about exposure. It's about building positive experiences. Some dogs are, and it's a generalisation, we'll get some dogs which will be able to just expose them to stuff, and the dog just learns, oh, this stuff's cool. I don't want them learning and it's cool. I want them learning it's really, really good, or it's certainly nothing to be fazed about. So some breeds will naturally socialise themselves. Not all of those individuals within that breed will do it. Okay, so it's a general term. I'm generalising here, but some breeds absolutely won't generalise. Won't socialise themselves. A lot of the breed, if you read the breed standard and the dog says it's aloof or wary of strangers, so livestock guardians, and I'm not picking on them, but these types of dogs, some of the herding dogs are kind of like this. We absolutely need to do this, because the dog will get spooked in its life, and it's the ability to bounce back from being spooked that makes our lives with them easier and their lives easier in the world. Alright, so I'll give some specific examples in the second part of this video. Any questions, stick them below and I'll try and answer them. And thanks for watching. Alright.